All right, well, listen, I'm thrilled to have you. We have Marla Chicotsky here, and we're going to be talking about family law. I'm thrilled that you're here because we've known each other for a very long time. So tell everyone a little bit about your practice and your company's name, your firm.
Thanks, Eric, for having me. We have known each other a very long time. We might be aging ourselves if we actually tell everyone how long we've known each other. But my firm is called BC Legal Group. I do have a business law partner. His name is Gregory Beck. We offer an array of services. He focuses more on corporate transactional work, real estate, and title. And my side of the firm is predominantly family law, specifically divorces, paternity actions, restraining orders, and any criminal case that kind of stems from any three of those cases.
And so I want to talk all about your practice and family law and the different types of cases you handle. But, it's so exciting to have you here because we've known each other for so long, and we actually started out at the state attorney's office together. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. So why was it when you graduated from law school, why did you decide to go to the state attorney's office?
Well, I did an internship during law school. I was a CLI for the city of Fort Lauderdale, their city prosecution's office. So I actually interned for the city where they were prosecuting municipal ordinance violations. And that put me into the criminal courts because although they're a city ordinance, they're still criminal misdemeanors. So I was trying disorderly intoxication and disorderly conducts and things that happen predominantly in Fort Lauderdale, where the city of Fort Lauderdale said, hey, don't cite them with the Florida statute, but cite them with this municipal ordinance violation so they could get, I guess, the revenue for the city. And so I did non-jury trials. I did a jury trial. I just was exposed to litigation. And I thought, wow, this may be something I should do in my career. And I interviewed with the state. And they hired me.
And you got a job there. It's so funny because I remember, first off, I have a memory of you working as a CLI with the city attorney because it was Scott Walker. Is that who it was? And so I was a certified legal intern with the state attorney's office, I think at the same time that you were doing that. And so, for everyone watching, what is, when you were in law school, what's a certified legal intern?
It is a internship where the Florida Supreme Court gives you a certificate that allows you to actually speak on the record as though you're a practicing attorney. However, you have to be, monitored always by an attorney. You can't just go and speak and do a trial and not have monitoring of your, I guess, boss at the time.
That's so unique that Florida does that because I remember it's like a driver's permit, right? You need another lawyer in the courtroom with you. And when I was a certified legal intern, I'm sitting there trying jury trials. I think I lost every single one of them, right? But, you as a law student, it's just such an incredible experience. Would you recommend that to law students that are in Florida or wherever, that if they can get certified to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, you get invaluable experience that's not taught in law school. It is something that you can determine whether it's for you or not for you before you go out into the real world as an attorney. So in this internship, I realized, wow, I really like being in the courtroom and this is fun. And this is something that maybe I want to pursue. And I was kind of good at it, I thought. So I was like, let me, look into this for my career. And interestingly enough, prior to that, I interned for a judge where he only handled civil work. And so at that time, I thought I wanted to be a civil litigator. And then I get placed with Scott Walker, and it was criminal or quasi-criminal. So then it changed my mind. So you don't really know what you want to do unless you have a true passion for something before you go to law school or while you're in law school. It's really hard to determine what type of law you maybe want to practice when you get out.
We talk about this a lot on this platform, is giving recommendations and tips to law students on how to find an area of the law that they're passionate about. So what would you recommend to law students on kind of figuring out what their career choice is going to ultimately be?
Well, I think it's also personality suited. So, if you're a shy person, doing an internship where you're forced to speak every day may or may not work for you, or it could work for you because that's something that we previously discussed. I mean, you may want to overcome, but it's really just to kind of figure out any internship you can get in law school, you should take, because you get, not only do you get credit from the school, but you also get this experience and exposure to things you may or may not have been able to do had you not taken the internship. So these are opportunities that really don't exist outside of the internship. You're never going to be able to get hired to go work for a city prosecutor otherwise. They just don't have that available to a law student otherwise.
And so you did an internship with the you said with the judge.
Yes.
And in civil, for civil cases, was it circuit civil or was it county civil?
Circuit
What was
civil.
it? Was it in Broward County?
It was in Miami-Dade County, and parking there every day was true, pure joy.
Listen, I just tried a case in Miami, and it is really, it's a difficult place to navigate.
It is. And then walking in your suit when it's 80, 90 degrees outside because you need to dress professionally. It was that part I did not enjoy, but learning and watching actual lawyers litigating was where I first was exposed and thought that this is something I wanted to do.
And I had a similar experience where when I was in law school, I was watching either civil trials or criminal trials, and I just realized that's what I wanted to do. It's exciting, you know? So when you started out at the state attorney's office, I mean, for the young lawyers out there, what is it like working as an assistant state attorney, at, Broward State Attorney's Office?
It's exciting. It's fun. It's stressful. It's basically every emotion in the vocabulary because it's highs and lows, but you have this camaraderie with your colleagues like you and I and everybody else that started with us. You could always lean on each other. You say, I have this fact pattern, or I don't have a wheel witness for DUI. Like, what do I do? And you just have everyone kind of, rallying together, which I really loved. I thought that you felt supported even if you were by yourself in a division like myself. I still felt like I had resources.
And what's cool, and when you say that you were in a division by yourself, and what's so cool at the state attorney's office is the amount of responsibility that you get right out of law school. Like, you are running the ship, you are trying cases by yourself, picking juries, putting witnesses on. How has that shaped you as the lawyer that you are today?
Well, I just think when you don't have any other option but to show up, you show up. So you learn how to pick a jury because you have to. You learn how to cross-examine witnesses because you have no other choice. So I feel that it's an invaluable experience that if you can financially afford to do it, because obviously you're working for the government, you're not going to work in some private law firm where you're getting a nice starter salary, but it's, I think, worth it if you're able to do it.
I think I recommend it to anyone who plans to be either a litigator or trial lawyer. I recommend it to anyone because they will just never get that level of being thrown into the fire, that level of trial in court experience other than doing that. I mean, I can't think of anything else.
No, I agree, because if you go work for a private firm or even a solo practitioner, they're not going to trust you immediately to go and even handle a simple 5-minute hearing. They're going to say, oh, no, you don't have that experience. You don't know what you're doing.
So, it's interesting because you said you handle family law cases, right? And other types of cases. Those are cases that require the skill of a trial lawyer to go in and actually present evidence, cross-examine witnesses, get evidence admitted. So, looking back, did that experience as being a trial lawyer at the state attorney's office help you become the great family lawyer that you are today?
100%. I mean, I have the background, the experience, the confidence from my previous experience to then parlay it into my own private practice now. So when I have a trial set or a hearing set, I'm not freaking out thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get this admitted into evidence? Or how do I cross-examine this witness? I feel that my thousands of non-jury trials, and I've tried almost over 100 jury trials in private practice as well as with the state, that I just no longer fear going to trial. That's not always the goal for your client, obviously, but if that's what has to happen, I'm not scared by the task.
You just think about that, right? When I'm sitting here talking to a family lawyer, that's your focus, that's who you help, is whether it's a divorce or it's a restraining or whatever the different family law issue is. Just think about the difference between the family law lawyer who has that skill and experience to go in the courtroom and take it the full length compared to the other family lawyer who just went to law school and they go, okay, I'm going to handle divorce. They don't have the skill. They're not there.
No, it's you can tell. I mean, there's, some attorneys don't know how to lay a predicate, like the simplest of a predicate. And sometimes the judges will unfortunately try to say you're not laying the proper predicate. But, they're helping when they're supposed to be, but, not right. But, you can tell the lawyers that have some sort of litigation background versus the ones that don't. And, there's transactional lawyers and there's litigation attorneys, and you can see the difference in court.
It's funny, I was talking about this on another social media platform, is like there is a difference between a litigator and a trial lawyer. The trial, all trial lawyers are litigators, but not all litigators are trial lawyers. There are people that litigate, but they don't have the skills to go into the courtroom and actually present the evidence, do the directs, do the crosses. And I just think that's just a fantastic skill that sets you apart from other family lawyers.
Most definitely. And I think when you start litigating against other attorneys and you have other attorneys that are sometimes witnesses or guardians and other, capacities in your cases, they start to view you in a different light because they see, wow, she can, cross-examine these witnesses and she actually can take my deposition effectively and do these things that, other attorneys may not know how to do or just fail to do because they've never had done it prior.
And, I just finished a medical malpractice case in Miami, which we won. And thank you so much. And it's like, there's also a level of respect the judge gives you when they see the skill level when you're in court and you're actually putting the evidence on, you're quick, you're on your feet, you're making decisions. I think, it's an advantage.
I agree. Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt at all.
It's like, think about it. It was like having someone who's never fought stepping into the ring with a UFC fighter, right? Who's someone who's done 100 fights, right? It's just, there's a different dynamic.
I know. And I still get, even though we've been practicing for quite some time now, I've been doing this for 30 years sometimes. It's like, okay, no problem. Like, we'll just go to trial. It's fine. I'm not trying to go to trial, but if you want to, then it is what it is. I can't force any client to take a settlement. I can't force another attorney to be reasonable, but I agree. I think if you can effectively represent your client in and out of the courtroom, they're always going to have an advantage.
And it's so funny because, like you just said, it's like, even with this medical malpractice case and all my cases, like the goal is not like, I don't want to go to trial. We want to get the case resolved for a fair and reasonable settlement or whatever it may be that's fair to both sides. Let's get the case resolved. But sometimes people are unfair or they treat your clients unfair. And it's nice to know that you have a lawyer that can actually say, okay, if you're going to treat us unfairly, then we have to do what we have to do. We don't want to, but
I mean, I think it's only fair to the client. I mean, I do know of some attorneys that when it gets to the point where the only thing left is a trial, that they will not do the trial because they know that that's not effective representation for their client. And so they will bring in either co-counsel or withdraw, and they have to retain new counsel. I've been retained, and I'm sure you have, kind of like in the 11th hour on a lot of cases because they're like, all we have left to do is go to trial. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to take a lot of time, a lot of work, but I'm obviously able to do it. But it's not always my favorite thing to do because it is very time consuming. And it definitely makes where you have to put your other cases and matters and, things you're tending to a little bit to the side, not forever, but, day or two or three when you're like, I have to literally just focus on this one case. But, being your own business owner, you don't have just one client. So taking on trials can be very stressful to us as the attorney as well.
Absolutely. Listen, I just had it. Someone brought me in the very 11th hour to handle this case in Miami. I did it. I was super excited to get involved. I liked the case. I wanted to help the family. And fortunately, my firm is set up in a way where I was able to kind of just give 150% focus on that case, while other cases are still getting, the attention and 100%, 150% attention that they deserve. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the lawyers who don't try cases. I think they're great lawyers. And I think they're even better lawyers when they realize they need to bring in a trial lawyer like you or me to help at that 11th hour if they need it.
I agree. I mean, there's nothing worse than committing malpractice or not being effective for your client because, we're only left with one thing really after we represent someone is our, how effective we were for them and also our reputation. And, you and I will never damage our reputation for one case or one trial or one. So it's like important to us that we always do a good job. I think.
So tell everyone, what are the primary cases that you handle at your law firm?
So on my side of the practice, I focus on divorces, paternity actions. That's when people have children, but they're not married in the state of Florida. I do restraining orders that tend to stem out of a divorce case or paternity action. I mean, most breakups, let's get real, are not pleasant. And a lot, unfortunately, involve a lot of he said, she said of domestic violence sometimes. So you'll see an arrest of domestic battery occur. I'll represent the client on the domestic battery. Then you'll see that the party that's the listed victim in the domestic battery will want to file a restraining order. So then there's that third case. And then they, of course, now hate each other and want to get a divorce. So you'll have three cases sometimes running simultaneously alongside one another. And I handle all of those matters. It just depends.
And so I have just like a ton of respect for the fact that you handle those cases, because I know just from my experience, whether it's family law or even domestic violence cases, they are difficult, complex, messy cases. And it requires a certain type of lawyer with a certain type of attitude, aggressiveness, and ability to deal with all the moving parts to handle them right, you know? And so, I mean, listen, some of those are the hardest cases. So when you're talking about divorce cases, do you handle both the husband, the wife? I mean, tell everyone, what kind of divorce cases are you handling?
I am an equal opportunist of sex. I represent women. I represent men. I represent in same-sex marriages. I've handled a few of those because it's legal in the state of Florida to get married. And so it's also, legal to get a divorce as well. So I've handled divorces that have children. I've handled divorces that don't have children. I do prenuptial agreements prior to people getting married. I also handle postnuptial agreements because they're saying, look, I think I want to get a divorce, but if you maybe promise me these few things in this new agreement, we'll stay together. So I handle postnuptial agreements, which is an interesting concept. And, anything really that stems out of a family, like any legal issue that could arise from basically people breaking up. I hate to say it like that because it's very negative, but that's basically where, everyone calls me, and I always jokingly say to them, no one ever calls me when they're doing well. Like, hey, how are you? It's like always bad.
Well, it's reality. People do either get divorced, they break up, they go their separate ways. I mean, that is what life is. It's in personal life and business life. And I think it's important that they know that they can reach out to a good lawyer to be able to advise them and get them the best help that they need in this difficult situation.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is that tensions are, running high, and everyone is emotional. There's children involved. So there's a lot at stake, and it's hard to sometimes get your client or the other party to see that this is not I'm going to win in court. If you go to court, in my opinion, in any of my cases, you're not winning, you're losing. You're spending money on attorney's fees that should be going to your children or should be going to you to build your new life separate and apart from your spouse. But of course, this is, what we do. Sometimes there's impasses that are uncontrollable, or neither side wants to compromise, because in my courtrooms, it's a court of equity. So what does the judge find equitable? And the case law is very wide in certain circumstances. So, you could maybe get a judge that's leaning more towards being equitable in this way versus another judge that's more equitable this way. So it's really hard to say with certainty too, prior to going to court, oh, the judge is 100% going to award you this or grant you this.
Is the goal, when someone comes with this type of a divorce or breakup and you're getting into a family law issue, is it to go to court immediately, or are you trying to get this thing settled down before you have to take the next step of going to court?
My approach always is, can we accomplish this pre-filing? Meaning, can we try to settle your whole case matter before either party files a petition for dissolution of marriage in the court? Because what that will do is automatically cut out any type of litigation and any type of attorney's fees above and beyond trying to just resolve the case. And there's a huge practice called collaborative law that everyone works together. The attorneys confer with the clients together. They hire a therapist if needed. They hire an accountant if needed. And everyone has joint meetings. because the goal is not to drag this out, not to litigate it to the death, but to resolve all the pending issues in the case collaboratively and together. And I've actually handled a few. You have to do so many to get certified as a collaborative attorney, but I, welcome that. And a lot of times that works. And I send a letter saying, I've been retained. We want to resolve this amicably. Let's try to do this pre-filing, kind of like a pre-lawsuit. Similar, I try to say, tensions are high. Let's see what we can work out. That requires still financial disclosures and other things. And if someone's not cooperative pre-filing, there's no court I can run to say, oh, the husband's not giving me his tax return so I can see what his income is. Then you get forced to file, and then you get forced into court.
Got it. So what and if you go that collaborative route, does it help save the person money?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, if you don't go to court, you don't get billed for going to court. So it's always in their best interest to try to resolve it.
You mentioned these paternity cases. What are the paternity cases that you see most often in your practice that you handle and help people with?
So paternity in Florida is when the parties have children and they're not married. Under Florida law, the woman has 100% what they call time sharing rights, which is custody in Florida. So if you break up, the mom can take the child 100%. Under the law is the only legal parent and can actually relocate outside of the state and the country if the mother really wanted to.
Without approval from the father.
Correct. The father, upon a breakup, needs to immediately retain counsel and file a petition for determination of paternity, because that automatically has the court retain jurisdiction over this child. You can file injunctions to prevent removal of this child, and you can make it where the mother can't relocate. So if you're a father of a child to a person that you're not married to, you do not have rights legally to your children. Everyone says, oh, I'm on the birth certificate. I'm the father. She agrees I'm the father. Legally, you have zero rights until a judge adjudicates you legally the father.
That is such an important message for men to know, is that under Florida law, if they're unmarried, they have no legal rights towards their child.
That's correct.
And so if there is the breakup, who should they reach out to help them establish the paternity so that they have rights with the child?
Any family law attorney that practices paternity. Yeah. So, I mean, I see...
And I'd recommend that they call you.
Well, I would recommend me too, but I don't want to toot my own horn, but thank you. It's just a matter of, if you can't agree to stay together, is this woman, the mother of your child, going to agree to give you time sharing with your child? Again, tensions are running high. A lot of times, most of the time, breakups are bad. The mom does not want to ever talk to this person again, the father. And withholding the child is a thing that's done because they're mad at the father, or they want to punish the father. But look, I've seen it both ways where, two people can interfere with time sharing. This is not like all moms are bad and all dads are victims. That's not the case. It's just under this circumstance, if you're not married, the fathers typically run risk where they'll go months on end without seeing their child upon a breakup.
Man, well, it's good for them to know that they should reach out to counsel, get advice, get help, so that they can have custody with their child.
Absolutely. I mean, my advice would be to do a paternity agreement while you're still intact in your relationship. So if you were to break up, you could immediately file the agreement, and it's kind of like a prenuptial agreement. Like, this is what's going to happen if we break up. I'm the dad. I get 50-50 time sharing. Child support will be based on the statute, the formula. Like, everything's laid out. You're not litigating. You're not running the risk of your child being relocated without permission from the court. And in fact, if there isn't a paternity order, the mother can relocate. A lot of times they get ordered to return, but I've had cases where I had just started in Georgia. The father had a child with a mother, not married. They break up. The mother moves down to South Florida, and the judge in Georgia incorrectly ruled that Florida was the home state of the child, which it's not. You have to live the last 6 months is where the court gets jurisdiction over the child, where the child's resided. So then he had to litigate his paternity action now in South Florida. So his Georgia attorney referred him to me. She found me through a Facebook group, like who can help him. And it took me 8 months to get him back reunited with his child because of all of the different courts he had to go through.
It gets complex, especially from state to state and when people leave the state.
100%. So if you are in fear that your mother of your child may take the child or withhold the child and you're not married, you should definitely try to do a paternity agreement.
Tell everyone, the folks out there, whether it's for a divorce or family law case or domestic violence case or paternity case, how do they get in touch with Marla Chicotsky?
They can contact me at my office. Our office number is 954-525-8155. They can email me at marla@bclegalgroup.com. That is our website as well, www.bclegalgroup.com. And everyone always ends up with my cell phone because it ends up everywhere. But I'm trying to have boundaries more for my, my own personal peace of mind and family.
Boundaries are good. Let them reach out to you first, retain you, and then maybe you'll make the decision to hand out the cell phone.
They always get it.
I know, they get mine too.
And then they're texting me at 8 o'clock at night, hey, she was late at the exchange today. And I'm just thinking, what do you think I'm going to do right now?
Yeah, there's not much I could do at 8 p.m.
No,
but we'll talk about it tomorrow morning.
Exactly. The judges are not working. It's hard too, as we're attorneys. So for us, we're just like, this is common knowledge. How do you not know judges aren't on the bench right now? Our clients sometimes think that legal remedies are immediate. And unfortunately, they're not. It's the legal, that was the saying that the wheels of justice churn slowly.
Yeah, I get the calls on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm like, listen, the insurance carrier, it's closed. There's no adjusters working. They work 9 to 5, and they check out, and they're done.
Yeah, they're definitely not responding to me right now.
Well, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm so glad that you came and we were able to talk all about your practice, and you're doing just a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And, I would trust any client with a family law issue to refer them over to your firm to help them in, their issues. So thank you so much. Listen, we'll wrap it up, and this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.